Welcome to Arnie's Class Podcast. I'm Arnie Aniel. I'm an HR development consultant, an international public speaker, a workshop facilitator, a coach, and an educator. Life is a great opportunity, and we all learn life lessons every day. This podcast is all about those lessons. Lessons like gratitude, confidence, happiness, mindset, and a lot more. Learning without action is information. Learning with action is transformation. Join me, learn, and transform yourself into a better you. What is the purpose of life? Or I should ask, what is the purpose of your life? I've met a lot of people and asked them that question, and most of them, they stop and say, I don't even know what's the purpose of my life. Some people, they said it's happiness. That's the purpose of life, to be happy. And some people, they said it's about being successful. Others, about loving others and become the best version of themselves. And for some people who are very religious, they said it's following God's will. Whatever it is, I do believe that each one of us, we have our purpose in life. But in finding that purpose or discovering that purpose, there are distractions. And these distractions affect our lives. There are different kinds of distractions, and sometimes you yourself is the biggest distraction in your life. I've read something that says that our purpose is to actually use our personal transformation in order to transform others. And we all live a life of a hero. Come to think of it, your life is a journey, and you are in a journey. And in that journey, you have adversities, you have challenges. And as you deal with those challenges and those adversities, there are people around you, people who help you in order to deal with those challenges. And in the end, whatever you learn from all those challenges and all the successes that you have in life, you give back to the society. You help other people too, in order for them to find their purpose in life. And I believe that's the main purpose of our life. My special guest for this episode is a doctor of professional counseling. He is the co-owner and chief operations officer of iProgress LLC in Jackson, Mississippi. He is a mentor, a workshop facilitator, a counseling supervisor who believes in helping individuals discover their purpose and helping people to heal themselves. He specializes in relationships, trauma, military, and telehealth. So, my life mates, please welcome Dr. Kendrick Bailey. Dr. Kendrick, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
I'm very glad because I'm very excited for this topic. So
And
let's start.
I'm excited to share and answer any questions that you have.
Yes. So Dr. Kendrick, my first question. Why do you think people, most of the time, at least in my experience, I'm not sure with your experience, but most of the time, a lot of people, they don't know their purpose in life.
So, and I'll start like this. Everybody was created for a specific purpose. And most of the time, we struggle through life because we're distracted. We're distracted by being what other people want us to be, whether that's our parents, whether that's our friends, whether that's our partners or spouses, and we really don't tap into our unique selves. And your unique selves, typically it goes against the grain. It goes against what everybody else wants, and it's more of your gut, guiding you, through life. And most people struggle with connecting with their gut, connecting with their intuition, and also trusting it, because we fear being different and doing what we truly want sometimes because it may disconnect us from other people.
I see. So, Dr. Kending, from your answer, I can sense that it's more of because of the social norms or what other people around you are actually expecting you to do. So you don't intend or you don't even try to be different.
No, because different sometimes isolates you
That's right.
until you get comfortable with it. And in being different is not popular because we want to fit in instead of standing out sometimes. And once you start on a path to connecting with purpose, you start to learn and you start to identify more about you. And if you can see my picture behind me, it's a blank canvas. I call it the man or woman with no face. And this is like a guiding principle for me in the work that I do with people. We start out as a blank canvas, and over time, we start to take form. We get eyes, we get ears, we get mouths. That's more of your identity taking shape. Now, when your identity takes shape, a lot of times the things that we hear and we see, we start to do, not because it's what someone told us to do, and not because it's right or wrong, is that we learn by seeing and doing. And learn, once you start to trust yourself, and once you start to identify the man or the woman in the mirror and what you really want to be and what you really want to connect with, that's when you start going down a path of figuring out, who you are and what you were destined to do. But it takes time because I'm 40. I didn't really find out what I was really destined to do until I was 35. I was always a counselor in the profession, but I was just seeing a small glimpse of who I was.
At the age of 35. I see.
Now, in the work that I do, at being 40, I tap into so many different things. I write, I do therapy, I go on podcasts, I write curriculum, I give training, I give motivational talks, I mentor. So whatever we are, that's just one step to being walking in your purpose. You have to look at it without any barriers or any boundaries and do it at the highest level. You know, so there's no boundaries to me being a therapist or what I say a life doctor. A life doctor just focuses on the overall wellness of people. It looks at them from a spiritual, mental, emotional, relational, financial, and purposeful standpoint. And so if you address all those core areas, then you learn who you really are because you're not, you're uncovering everything and you're not, just focus on one facet of your life.
Okay, so we have to take into consideration the all the aspects of our life. So holistically, we have to take ourselves with all those parts, just like what you mentioned, financially, in terms of relationships, spiritual, physical. So, Dr. Kendrick, how can people discover their purposes or their purpose in life? How can you help someone? Where's the beginning?
I think you start by really examining what do you want and who you are and identify which voices, are dominant in your life. So like me, the dominant voices in my life, I'm a real spiritual person. So God is a dominant voice in my life. And then me. And I feel that I'm connected with him. But a lot of time people, the dominant voices they hear may be their girlfriend, maybe their wife, maybe the husband, maybe the mom or dad telling them, hey, this is what you should do. And should is different from created to do. Just because people can be great at a lot of things. They can be great at working particular jobs, but it doesn't mean that it fulfills them. It doesn't mean that that's what they were created to do. It doesn't mean that that was the thing that they were born to change or impact in the world. And so I think it starts just simple. Who am I and what do I want to do? And then every day, add another piece to who am I and add another piece to, what does the man or woman in the mirror really want? And then how will I get that change?
Okay. But Dr. Kendrick, what if for example, we ask them, so what do you want? And the answer is, I don't know what I want. How can we guide them further with that question of what do you want?
Some of the things we could take is like personality inventories. They give really good assessments. And there are a lot of them out there. Probably one of the most famous ones, Western wise, is like the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And there's a lot of free versions online. It basically tells people who they are based off their personality type, based off a set of questions they answer. But it gives them insight into being an introvert or extrovert. It gives them insight to see if they're sensing or judging, or they base things off of perceptions. It also gives them career information about what type of careers they would most likely be interested in, based off their personality type. And it's really just about discovering, self, trying new things to see what you like based off of, and not just basing your information off what other people tell you may like. A good movie that I tell people about that paints this picture is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It's a movie about a man. He's more of a daydreamer and overthinker, and all he did was work. And by meeting this famous photographer, he realized that he inspired other people. But by inspiring other people, he went on this quest and this journey to live in his life. And in 1 year of his life, he did more things than he's ever done in his life, because he stopped listening to all the voices around him at work, and he just started living, and that was more action oriented. So whenever you get a chance, for your audience, definitely check out that movie. It's a great theme about living versus existing, and connecting to purpose, and not being distracted by just tasks or ordinary things.
Dr. Kendrick, you mentioned when I asked you what they are supposed to do in order to discover their purpose, and you mentioned about first they ask themselves what do they want, and then you also mentioned about the people around them who matter to them, like is it the parents or probably sibling, girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse. How can they navigate that? Like, for example, okay, the person that really matters to me is my mom. So what's next after that? What after they identify that key person in their life? What's next?
It's finding the words to have the conversation, because it's not a disrespectful conversation. It's more of a respectful conversation. It's an empowering conversation. Being empowered enough to have a conversation with the people that you care about, I call them your community or support systems. It allows you to gain freedom, but it allows them to understand that you have a sense of what you want. Because a lot of times our family and friends give us so much information because we may not seem confident that we have the answer to where we're going in life. And when people think we don't have the answer, they always want to give us the answer because they want to fix the problem. And in reality, most people don't need fixing. And that's something that I don't do in my profession. I don't fix people. I help people to understand who they really are and be comfortable walking that path and understanding what challenges may come, but learning to embrace the challenges instead of being fearful of them. Because
Wow.
no one ever overcomes fear by running from it. The only way to overcome fear is to face it head on.
I have a follow-up question. What if Dr. Kendrick, okay, this is what I want. And then once I identify the key person in my life and what they want, for example, my mom wants something else. and it's something that is totally opposite or different from what I want. So how can we reconcile that kind of conflict or differences?
Okay. I guess key things is understanding the why. Understanding the why of why mom wants this, but then also helping mom to understand the why of why you want to do what you want to do or you feel compelled to do it. Again, it's not about, disrespect. It's more about respect. And I feel that this is where I can make the biggest impact or change in the world. So, like for instance, like with your podcast, and you bringing on all these great people to talk to, that's something that you felt in a need to do because you can make an impact by having great conversations with people, and then you can get it out, and then people can be changed just by listening to podcasts. See, that's the evolution in the metamorphosis of change now. Everyone doesn't have to do the traditional thing like come to therapy now to get to find change. They can listen to a podcast. They can see a movie. They can listen to a sermon. They can go to a concert. They can anywhere that they are actually doing something, they can actually be impacted, and the switch can go off or the light bulb can go off, and they can say, "Okay, I got it." And so this is a monumental thing in the context of what people are doing podcasts, and I think it's really great. And so just that simple conversation, parents can hear this type of talk, and they can see, oh, so my son maybe has it together, and me pushing my values or me pushing what I want on them is really shrinking them instead of empowering them and making them feel like they're larger.
Now, so after that, thank you so much. Very clear, well explained, Dr. Kendi. So after that, any other additional activity that they can do in order for them to discover what's their purpose in life? So I know what I want. I already identified the person, and then I was able to discuss and have that kind of respectful conversation with that person. And then now I know any other additional just to confirm that yes, this is my purpose.
Yeah. Most businesses they have like a vision and a mission statement. I think it's healthy for people to have that for themselves. You know, what's my vision? That's their overarching goal for my life. And then the mission is how I'm going to actually go about accomplishing that because I have different tasks that I would do to get there. So that's more of bringing the awareness piece. So in order to gain more understanding, you have to really be aware of who you are. And in order to gain awareness, like I said, you have to try a lot of different things. But through trying, you're going to build an arsenal of activities or things that help to shape your life or help to form it or transform it. So journaling is very good. Um, Writing is a healthy way to do it.
Like a journal, Dr. Kendrick. Writing a
Yes,
journal.
like writing in a journal because that's what a lot of times some of the most impactful things we think about, we don't write them down and we lose train of thought of them. But when you have unique thoughts or innovative thoughts, it's important to write them down because they came from a place within you, and it may be for a later time. So I often write, things down. I write my dreams down. If I have a dream at night, I write them down. But I also write out the vision and mission, and then write steps to how I'm going to get there. Because even though those exact steps may not, actually work out the way I want to, I can always deviate from that and find another way to get there.
So you yourself practicing writing a journal.
Yes, I'll show you what it looks like. So this is mine. It's moleskin. I have about three of them, and I just write things down because sometimes you're inspired by what you see in nature, what you hear, and you just want to write your idea down. And I think that's a healthy way to gain a reference point because what you write down may turn into a book one day. It may turn into a workshop. It may turn
That's right.
into this training, or it may turn into your TED talk.
That's right. Yes, I totally agree because I myself, I write. I even have this morning statements that I write about my dreams or what I want to accomplish and achieve. And then I do the gratitude journal before I go to bed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
what I do.
Yeah, that's neat. I think my business partner used to do the gratitude journal.
I see. Is there a tip that you can give that once, for example, I already write my purpose in life? Is there a tip that will say that, yes, you're on the right track? Yes, that's it. Because sometimes, remember, when we write something, it feels like it doesn't resonate. It's still, you don't have, like, remember, sometimes you get excited when you say something, but sometimes what if it sounds flat?
Yeah, no. So, have you ever heard of a mastermind group?
Yes.
So there's mastermind groups for almost everything. And so people that may be interested in writing or coaching or doing podcasts, it's good for them to join like mastermind groups because in life, I it's four principles that I go by when I work with people. Awareness is the first phase, shift is the second phase, alignment is the third, and community is the fourth phase. So community is I may have advisors without my hands stretched out and I'm holding on to their hands and they're advising me. And then I may have my hand behind me and I'm helping someone else, but I'm pulling them up and my advisors are pulling me up. So we gotta surround ourselves with people that know more than us just as well as we may be the experts for someone else. Like I may be an expert for someone while they're going through something, but I have just as many other experts where I talk to and they pull me up to get me to where I am. Because the reason I got my doctorate degree was because someone advised me and they said, hey, this is a good thing for you and you could really impact people in this way. And I was like, nah, I don't think that's really for me. And then eventually I was like, yeah, this is the right thing. And so I try to find other people like me in the context of people willing to embrace their uniqueness and to really transform into what they really truly see themselves. And that's not being afraid to speak or introduce new, paradigm shifts or come up
Mhm.
with new theories because it's 2022. A lot of things that we're doing was shaped by things that happened in like the 50s and 40s and 60s. Now, I think it's time for us to add to the literature and come up with new ways of doing stuff for the next generation because what was working 70, 80 years ago isn't as effective. And so now that's why, like I said, we have podcasts, we have all type of things on online platforms and apps that give you right now information. That's one of the things I didn't mention earlier. Is different apps too that will help people find out information. So you got affirmation apps, you got apps that focus on reflection, you got apps that focus on emotional wellness, and then two of the most important things people could do emotional intelligence and relational intelligence will help them gain awareness because emotional intelligence is all about how you connect universally because even if we speak different languages we still understand certain universal commonalities. And so
Correct.
once we learn to speak the same language or connect with a purpose, then we understand each other. So we don't focus on our differences. We focus on what we have in common. And then that shapes conversations and help them move to a different level. So a lot of those things help to move us forward instead of keeping us stagnant.
Yeah. You mentioned also, so emotional intelligence and relational intelligence. Is that what
Mhm.
you said?
Yes, sir.
Say. So, Dr.
And
Kendrick, sorry, you mentioned about the four phases for the benefits of my life mates, my listeners. I call them life mates. Can you just repeat that? The four, like I still remember alignment, community. What's the first one?
okay, so awareness is the first phase. Awareness is equivalent to who am I? So I'm finding out all this information. Who am I? How do I get to this point? Shift That's, I guess the man or woman in the mirror. That's what am I going to do to make the change?
Okay.
Alignment is more of what I call maintenance. I'm operating at my optimum level. And once I'm operating, I'm the best version of myself. How do I maintain it? So that's alignment. True north is another word for alignment. True
Yes,
north.
that's
That
right.
means I'm focused on true north. And for people that know anything about land navigation, there's magnetic north, there's true north. So there's only one true way to go. And then community, that's where I call community is your connections. And if you're plugged into the right power source or the right connections, that helps you find destiny and purpose faster. Because when you're connected to dead batteries, you get distracted. And you got to jump off a dead battery. But when you're connected to your right power source, you really move in life. So awareness, shift, alignment, and community.
And how do you call these phases, Dr. Kendrick? These are the
We, we,
phases of
we call them iProgress life changing outcomes. And I do it in all the work that I do. That's how
wow.
I move. That's how I move people forward. I just focus on those 4 ways. I help people understand how they became who they were. And then that's a lot of the time that's the biggest phase because sometimes people have no clue who they are and how they got to where they are.
Totally agree. Totally
And
agree. I've
so,
met some people like that.
and so I just take them down a journey back to their past on when they identified their pain points or some type of traumatic experience, and then they catch on. Okay, so this is why I do. This is why I retreat when I avoid, and now they get the chance to determine if they want to be, their true self or the false self.
See.
Because with distraction versus purpose, when we're distracted, we wear a lot of masks. So I call distractions, we can be pretenders, we can be a chameleon, we are actors and actresses. So every situation, we have to be another person. We have to get ready for another role. And that can be tiresome.
Oh, yes. Yes. Dr. Kendrick, what are the let's just talk about probably three distractions. What are the three common distractions that people experience?
So we commonly experience distractions relationally in relationships. I think in our careers, and I also think sometimes we experience distractions emotionally.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that, if you're emotionally immature, you base you see your feelings as facts, and in reality, feelings are not facts. You have to. It's okay to feel whatever you feel, but you got to get more context around your feelings, and you got to have conversations with other people because we sometimes get hurt by things relationally that we don't have all the information, too. We just see things from our perspective. So the perspective is another distraction too. If you only see life through your lens or your perspective, then you're not taking time to take into account of everything else. Because even though I may be Dr. Kendrick Bailey, I still see life from my perspective. And I gotta allow other perspectives to help shape some of the things that I do. Because just because I see it the way I see it doesn't mean it's right. And a lot of times we guide ourselves by our answer is the only answer. And that's a lot of times why we can be combative in discussions because just like I have an answer for me, you have an answer for you.
Yeah.
If your answer works for you, that means it's right. If my answer works for me, that means it's right. But we try to argue and say, well, your answer is wrong and my answer is right.
Yeah.
And,
That's
and
right.
that's not it. And that's what we call being immature, being emotionally immature.
See, Dr. Bailey, let's focus on the relationship first. Like, of course, it's very common to have like people in a very abusive relationship. how do you, I don't want to say the word encourage, but how do you deal with people in order for them to be out of that kind of relationship that is abusive? Because some people, even if they are physically abused, they already get used to it. It's already part of their life. And then they don't want to get out of that relationship. So how do you help people?
I think one of the first things that I do, I look at their family dynamics and whether they learn that it was okay to, I guess, take or experience or accept what they accept. And so that's one piece of it. Did they see it growing up? Have they experienced it before? And then, I do what we call like motivational interviewing. Is looking at the pros and cons of their relationship. That's just simple motivational interviewing. Hey, what do I gain from this relationship? So what are the benefits? And then what are the cons? What are the negative things from this relationship? And in real time, they get a chance to see, what benefits they have. And instead of me giving them the answer, they uncover the answer, or the answer is revealed through their writing. And then the next piece, you talk about the worst case scenario. You know, worst case, what can this cost you? And then especially
Mm,
if children are involved, what can this cost you? Do you want to continue this cycle of abuse? Because what kids see, you know, regardless of we say if it's right or wrong, they may see that and they may say, okay, well, this is how relationships are. And
that's
they may
right.
carry that on. And so at some point, we got to break the cycle of abuse. And so by just asking those type of questions, people, a lot of times get to, hey, I need to make a shift. Now, it may take some time to make that shift because you got to have resources, and you have to have, different and maybe finances, but, just trying to empower the person that's being abused, that they have options when they may tell themselves, I don't have options. It's always going to be this way. I'm never going to get out. And then you just help them uncover some alternatives.
So you just ask them questions. I love that. You say a motivational interview. So you keep them asking questions on the pros and cons, and then they themselves uncover what they are
Yes.
supposed to do.
Yeah, because I don't want to be the I don't want to give them an answer that may be my answer. It's more about helping them uncover the answer that they can live with, and they're sure they can maintain. And then knowing that they already had the answer, the fear was really driving them from doing some things.
See, thank you so much. Let's move on to the career. You mentioned career is also another distraction. How are you going to help someone who's not motivated with what they're doing? They are not productive anymore. They like what they do. They said they like,
Mm.
when you ask them, do you like what you're doing? And some of them they say, yeah, I like what I'm doing, but they're not motivated and they're not productive at all. So how do you help that kind of person?
And so you look at what's the motivation for being where they are. Is it finances? Is it stability? Is it fear? Figure out why that individual is in the current place they are in their life. Um, because a lot of times people make the shifts around the 35 to 45 age range. Between 35 and 45, you see a lot of shifts in careers. So if you're not fulfilled with what you're doing, but you're successful or good at, that can be a huge indicator of wanting to change. So again, people are multi-talented, so they can be really good at a lot of things. And the things that they're really good at can make them a lot of money. But if you're not connected to it, then you just kind of going through the motions. So I guess I try to find out what people are passionate about. What type of things make them light up when they start discussing it? What type of things that they get invigorated with or they're enthused about? And that starts I guess, the conversation of, do I need to stay the same or do I need to make a change? But I also focus on this principle in life, and that's the part of the reason that our business is called iProgress. I don't think we ever stop growing in life. So even once you get the highest level of degree, it's still so much more that you can learn. Just because you've obtained the high level of academia, you may need to grow emotionally or relationally or physically or spiritually or emotionally. And so every time you go to another level in life, you got to go through those seven core areas: spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, relational, financial, and personal, because you got to get back in alignment. So when you take a new step, you got to get back in alignment to make sure you focus on true north. So every time you get to a new level in life, assess the situation and see what's missing. But when it comes to career, if you're not fulfilled, then that it goes back to what type of impact do I want to make in life? Who are the people that need me the most or wants what I have to say, and how can I get there? So it's just a map. It could be a visual map in your head, or you can write it out, and that's one step to finding out if you're stagnant and you're looking for a change, and then kind of what's stopping you. So it's
Mm.
like being in quicksand. So if I feel like I'm in quicksand, how did I get here? And what resources or people do I need to help me get out?
Oh, while you're answering the question, Dr. Kendrick, I just remember procrastination. I,
Procrastination is good, yeah.
yeah, I know a lot of people who procrastinate and they are aware. They acknowledge, they know very well that they procrastinate, but they're not doing anything about it. How can we help people who are procrastinator?
So I look at procrastinators as daydreamers sometimes too, but you could be on either ends. Some people procrastinate with starting, some people procrastinate with finishing. So imagine an artist that was painting this beautiful picture on canvas. As as an artist goes through their work of art, it may be the most beautiful thing we've ever seen. But if they're not satisfied, that's that's when they get caught in the procrastination piece and they start over from the beginning because everything has to be perfect. So some people procrastinate because they're perfectionists and nothing's ever good enough.
Mm.
Some people procrastinate because they don't have an idea of how to start. And so with people that struggle with starting, it's important for them to see examples of what they want to do. And then when they can see it visually or they can visualize it in their head, it's easier for them to start. But they also have to be better time managers. Procrastinators typically give themselves unrealistic time crunches, and they can wait till the last minute to finish something, and they think it's forcing out their best work, but it's really creating more anxiety. And then on the latter, the people that are perfectionists, they got to learn to understand that nothing is perfect. And what perfectionists have to do is learn to get okay with a number in their head. Like with me, I'm a 75% person because I'm not a perfectionist. So if I can get a 75% product, I'm good with that because it may need to go to a different level than me to get it to 100% or 90%. So once I get to 75%, I'm done with it. And I may elicit help for the rest. We just have to be satisfied with a number. And I just easily said from 0 to 100, if you're a perfectionist, 90%, it may be the point that you have to accept. Or it may be 85, it may be 80. It's a different way of looking at when I have to let go. Because that's the fear with perfectionists is letting go and putting something out that's not perfect. But sometimes the imperfections is what makes us so beautiful as humans. We're all imperfect, and we just have to understand that because to attain perfection, that's unrealistic.
Exactly. Exactly. You just have to embrace your imperfections. And so, Dr. Kendrick, are you telling me that it helps for them to set, like, for example, I'm okay with 80% or 75%. So it helps.
It helps in the work that I've done with people. It helps because sometimes it just can be as simple as just setting a number. And when you're a perfectionist, because again, that goes with procrastination. We just have to accept that nothing is perfect, and then we can take our next step.
See. But in your experience, which one do you consider the biggest distraction for people? That's why the
Mm,
purpose is somehow not fulfilled and they're somehow lost. What do you consider, at least in your experience with the people you've met?
a lot of what I seen, it would be career, and I didn't talk about this one. Forgiveness is a huge distractor too, or unforgiveness. Those are the two biggest ones I see. Why where people they stay stagnant and they kind of play tug of war with a rope is career wise, and then with not being able to forgive because forgiveness frees you. But if you can't forgive, you stay in this distracted, realm until you're able to let go of the pain and hurt. Because the forgiveness is for you. It's not for the
Other
person that
person.
it's not for
See.
the person that offended you. Because that person goes on and moves on with their lives. You're the person that's kind of like like you're a hostage to your emotions.
But what's your take on the people that they said, yes, I forgive you, but I don't forget?
Read my mind now.
No, because
it's,
I think you've heard that, Dr. Kendrick. Yes,
yeah,
I forgive, but I will never forget.
and so this is not everyone's take, but this is my take, and this is how I work with people. I help them uncover true forgiveness equates to forgetting because if you don't forget, you're just constantly re-injuring yourself when you go back to that pain point. You know, so instead of you having like short-term memory loss every when because we're gonna be hurt throughout our lives.
Mm.
We can't change that. And so if I'm carrying the hurt and pain of all these people that offended me and I don't forget it, well, that's emotional baggage. And at some point that baggage weighs me down and I'm no longer able to move throughout the world the way I want to because I'm so engulfed with all of this pain and this hurt that all I see is pain and hurt, and then I become bitter. And so for me, in the way I practice true forgiveness equals forgetting because you don't constantly re-injure yourself by looking back at the pain. You understand what you experienced, but you choose to move forward.
But how can they process that? I can, on behalf of the listeners, my life mates, Dr. Kendrick, probably they're saying, yes, it's easier said than done, but it's not that easy. So, how do you help people process that kind of situation? Like, it's hard to forgive, or they forgive, but they don't forget.
Yeah. Now, so it takes time, and that's this is one of the hardest things to see. And so it comes with a shift in perspective, and it I tell them what you get by doing it. A shift in the perspective allows you to become the best version of yourself. So I go back to motivational interviewing. What is this pain costing you? Because I sometimes, and it doesn't always work with everyone, but just an example. Like if you put it a time of like a sentence on how much time, if you were a judge and you gave out a sentence or carry out a sentence on someone that offended you, and let's say you give them a 3-year sentence, and it's been 10 years since it actually happened, but you're realistic saying, I give somebody 10 years, 3 years for doing that. And then I show them in real time. Well, if you give somebody 3 years for this offense, but you've been holding on to it for 10 years. At what point is their debt paid? And at what point can you move past it? And sometimes you just have to give literal examples of what it's costing them, because I don't have the power to change their mind. What I do have the power to do is show them what being in that place is costing them. And the unique thing about it, we got a great gift, and it's called the gift of choice. We can choose to do whatever we want to do. Choice can be, I'm not going to forgive. Then that can prolong my suffering. But that's a choice that I made, not a sanction somebody else imposed on me. So that's the other thing about forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't a sanction that somebody else imposed on you. Unforgiveness is something that you impose on
On
self, because
yourself.
you choose to make the decision you make. Now, if you choose to make the opposite decision and forgive, you free yourself. You understand who those people are and what they did, and you don't allow yourself, I guess, to associate yourself or get involved at the level that you once did, but you may be able to see them and speak to them and then keep going. So forgiving people doesn't mean that what they did to you wasn't wrong. Forgiving people just means I don't choose to let those people have power over me anymore,
Hmm.
because
Wow,
I'm freeing myself.
that's very powerful. There's another scenario, Dr. Kendrick. They will say like, how can I forgive people who are not even asking for forgiveness? I don't know if you heard
Yeah.
something like that. They will say like, how come? How can I forgive them? They're not even asking for forgiveness.
Mhm. And it's still looking at it from their perspective. They may not even know they did anything wrong, but you know they did something wrong. And so sometimes you have to forgive their lack of awareness. That goes back to the emotional and relational intelligence. So do I get angry at something that was created to do what they do? So think about a gopher. A gopher digs up stuff, right? So what what do I gain from being mad at an animal or a gopher for doing what they were created to do?
Hmm.
They only do what they know to do. So I lose time and energy trying to, I guess, be angry and change people when, if they're not willing to change and they're not capable of change, then I'm fighting a lose-lose battle. But if somebody's willing to admit or acknowledge and they're capable to admit and acknowledge, then they equipped with the tools to be forgiven and, I guess, change. But I I just focus on the time that I lose by trying to focus on something that is a lost cause, because time is the most precious thing that we have. Time is the most valuable thing in life, because it's the one thing that you can't recoup. We can recoup money, we can recoup precious jewels or gems, um, but we can't recoup time. Once it's lost, it's lost. And so if your audience could, take anything from what I say today, is uh, don't waste your time holding on to stuff that keeps you stagnant, because the 10 years or 5 years you hold on to it, you could have pushed yourself to a different level. And I know it's painful and I know it's hurtful, but pain is one of the key tools that helps us find purpose. Because pain, learn if we learn to shift it, it empowers us or motivate us to change that in the world, and we start to go on a quest to help other people, I guess, become aware of it before we did. Or that's how we find our lawyers, that's how we find our doctors, that's how we find our therapists and our business people and our financial advisors. All those people had pain, they just shifted what that pain meant for them in a lot of places and tried to, repurpose it for something that will make an impact or change the world.
Dr. Kendrick, in your experience, how long, of course, you have session with your clients, or how long does it take for a person to know their purpose in life and clearing all the other distractions that actually keep them away from their purpose?
Now that's the challenge. So I've had some people, really just it depends on how aware they are. I've had people 6 months, they know exactly where they want to go. And I've had people 18 months.
Wow, 18 months, Dr. Kendrick.
Because we look at life out of like so you wear glasses. So everything you see, you have a wide perspective. So you have peripheral vision. So you can see a lot of things just by looking in front of you, right? So that's part of the problem with people that want to change. Everything you see is external, and you looking for answers externally. Where in reality, if you was looking in the mirror, that's the only thing you should focus on. Change starts with self by being aware, by understanding that you have more power than you believe you have. And then belief is a strong indicator to change. So if I believe something enough, you know, if I believe I could build a house and I start building the house and I read and I do other things, I'm going to build me a house. So we got to believe. We have to stop taking an external view of life and look more internal and do a lot of reflections and a lot of self-evaluations. And that helps us uncover who we are and I guess really what we were, created to do. Because a lot of people miss purpose.
Yes.
Look at how many smart people miss out on purpose because they choose the alternate path, and that alternate path costs them so much.
But can they change their purpose after a year, 2 years, 3 years? If that's a question, like for someone, oh, Dr. Kendrick, I know my purpose, but somehow I think it's changing.
So purpose can change, or they could just be getting to new levels of what purpose is. Because remember, a lot of time we put what we have in a box. So we always say, "Hey, I'm good at this. This is just what I'm going to do." Well, what if your purpose, meant for you to just do it at a magnified scale? And so sometimes we shrink our level of impact because we're not comfortable of taking risks. And I've learned more from failure than I would ever learn from success.
Yes.
I've failed so many times, but failing taught me, oh, okay, that ain't the right way. Now I know which way to go.
Yeah, I
So,
couldn't agree more. Yes.
so we have, I tell, so don't be afraid to fail because failure is going to inform your process. The only true, person that fails is the person that never tries because they don't have anything to inform themselves about. They just got other people answers. They got YouTube answers. They got encyclopedia answers. They got Wikipedia answers, but they don't have their answer.
That's right. Yes. But before I miss, I just remember a lot of people nowadays, at least in my personal experience, a lot of people are saying that I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. But for me, it seems like it's more of an excuse for them in doing something and achieving something. So what's your take on people who say, I'm introvert. I want to be alone. Like for example, in public speaking, they said, I can't do that. I'm an introvert.
Yeah. And most people have a very immature understanding of what introvert and extrovert mean.
Yes.
It's so many great public speakers that are introverts. And it's a lot of
Agree.
great public speakers that are extroverts. I tell people the biggest thing to learn from introverts and extroverts is where do we draw our energy from?
That's right.
Some people need people around because it gives them energy. Some people recharge when they're by themselves. That's how they reset. So for me, that's the biggest piece for what people can understand about introvert and extrovert. Instead of using the excuse, well, I'm not this and I'm not that. No, that's not really what it's about. It's just giving you information. There are great communicators that are extrovert and introvert. Doesn't mean that you can't give a key address, doesn't mean you can't give a TED talk. You just have to understand how do you recharge and what do you need to get your energy back. Because introverts may like to work by themselves and get a 75% or 80% product and then take it to the group because then the pressure's off. And now I'm just refining my tool and I'm making it better. An extrovert may need to just start out the brainstorming with a group and then they got the idea and then they go write it. So it's two separate processes, but both of them involve people. We just got to understand which one we are. And it's easy to find out because you just have like, all right, do I get annoyed when a lot of people around for long periods of time? Do I enjoy being by myself and I kind of get enthused and I'm able to think and write? It's easy to figure out which one you are.
Yeah.
You just have to, and some people float the line. Some people can be both because they
somewhere in between.
Yeah, some people float the line just depending on the situation. But that's fine. You just have to know how much of what you need. So if that's why some people like engineers and people that do a lot of computer work, they they can function really well by themselves because a lot of times they may be introverted. But when they get in front of other people and give a presentation or brief, they knock it out of the park because they've done the work.
See, because I have 3 standard questions to my guests, and we're almost at the end of our podcast. I'm enjoying it so much. I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure my life mates are also learning when they listen to this podcast. But Dr. Kendrick, we've been talking, and then I can hear a lot of things about relationships and how important it is. What advice can you give to the people in order for them to have a harmonious relationship with themselves and with other people around them?
So be willing to accept feedback. Feedback helps you grow. And with relationships, don't be so focused on having the right answer. Because relationally, just like in life, some people get to the answer faster than others. We have to give other people grace in relationships because I've been married for maybe 13 years on the 15th of May. I can't expect my wife to come to an answer as fast as I am about something that I'm an expert in. I still have to give her time to come up with her answer and not be frustrated. And so we get frustrated relationally sometimes because we expect other people to be us when that's the beauty of relationships that we're different. We balance each other out. Like my wife is strong in the areas that I may not be. And I may be strong in the areas that she's not. And we learn not to struggle. I tell people in relationships, we have to more so be like this. We kind of move harmonious with each other instead of being like this, and it's more of a struggle. So now I'm pulling her and she's pulling me instead of us just going and being harmonious with one another and understanding. So you have to listen to understand relationally and know that everybody comes from a place where they may have experienced some pain or some trauma, and their pain and trauma may shape how they answer or how they respond. And then we have to learn to renegotiate the terms of our relationships as we grow, because how we were at year one when we were married is not how we are right now at year 13. And so as we grow together, this is kind of how we like to do this. This is how I like this. This is how you like this. Okay. And just constantly do that. And we never lose grasp or connecting with one another. And then connect intentionally. Find opportunities to connect and have real conversations about real life and about moving each other forward.
Oh, that's very nice. Reading your background and listening to all your answers to my questions, Dr. Kendick, what do you consider the greatest lesson you've learned in life?
For me, let's see. I've learned a lot. I was hard headed.
I like it when I saw when you smiled. When I asked you the question and then you smiled, it's like okay, something great is going to come out
Yeah.
now.
So for me, it was learning to trust God and learning to trust myself. I'm big on signs, and I've always had the answers to the things that I struggled with, but I just didn't believe. I think for me, it was when I truly started to trust me, and I guess be okay with not conforming to the answer. And I think that's when I kind of got to set myself apart. And then the other thing, when I got the courage to leave my 9 to 5, and it totally went against everything I believed in. But I realized that I was in a make or break season. I was like, if I stay here one more month, my wife is gonna have to come. She's gonna have to come get me out the hospital because I'm just not happy. And so I guess that answer is your happiness is important, and trying to be the answer for everybody else when your answer is the wrong answer is what changed my life. I was always the answer for everybody else, but I wasn't the answer for me. And when I did one thing solely for me, and I didn't factor anybody else into it, that changed my life. Because I think that was the one time that I was probably 100% selfish. And you have to be selfish at times because no one will understand what you're doing means to you. And so you sometimes have to, take those huge steps.
Totally agree. Yes, yes to that. My follow-up question is what decision you've made? Because every day in our lives, we make decisions, we make choices. What decision you've made in the past that has a huge impact of who you are now?
That's a good question. But good. Let me see. What change did I make? I guess um, starting with my business with me and my co-partner and truly removing the box from around my life. 'Cause at one point in time, I was just a therapist or I was just a leader. Now, um, I don't put limits or limitations on who I am or what I can be.
Mm.
I understand that there is always new levels to where I can go. But now I'm more humble and grateful about the new levels. At one time, I thought it was me or me because I was just so great. And I realized that, no, that's not the answer. I realized what I do and what I have is a special gift and talent that comes from God. And I know it's not me. But so the arrogant person in the past thought it was him. The person that understands his gifts and talents knows there's more about what God created me to do and its purpose. So the arrogance was the distraction. Purpose is what led me to really honing in on the gifts and talents I have.
Oh. I know you already wrote a book, but if you're going to write another book, but this time about your life, Dr. Kenrick, what kind of book will it be and what will be the title? There's
So,
another smile there.
well, I woke up. So I woke up from this dream the other night, and I told you I write notes all the time.
Yes, that's right.
So I wrote the war within, the battle for destiny, versus distractions. And I got 11 chapters in it.
Wow.
So the war within, the battle for destiny versus distraction. I think that's my next book.
Wow. I can't wait. Wow, that's nice. 11 chapters. You've written 11 chapters already, Dr.
Oh, I
Kendrick.
haven't read them. I haven't written them yet, but so we for about a year we did like live broadcasts for like a hour. So we got over 100 some broadcasts. So I'm gonna download a bunch of my broadcasts into the script and let the script put it into words, and then I'm gonna find my my book in the things that I've talked about. So it's a different way, it's a different process to writing a book. But that's how I'm gonna put out my next few books. It's gonna be the words that I've already said. I just gotta download it into the script and shape it into each chapter.
Nice.
Totally different from how normal people do it. But I'm unorthodox in that way that I can't do certain things the wrong way.
Good luck. Again, thank you so much. Any message to the people who are traumatized, people who are in pain at the moment, or people who at the moment, they still don't know what is their purpose in life?
It's gonna be challenging to figure out the answers, to who they are and what they want to be. But if they can understand the purpose of the pain and not the negative part of understanding the purpose of the pain, understanding what they pain infuse them to do and connecting with that, they'll find a lot of answers. And they can find some purpose in that too. But I tell everybody, you have all the answers inside of you. Sometimes people have to uncover the answers and dig them up, and sometimes the answers are revealed to them. But as you find out more and more about you, be comfortable with what you see in the mirror, and don't be afraid of the reflections that you have, because it's going to take you to a new level in your life that's going to motivate you to be the best version of yourself. And so, if I can ever be a resource to anyone in your audience, I'll be happy to do so.
Wow. Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, Dr. Kendrick, a lot of takeaways from this episode, and thank you so much for your time. And probably I can invite you again one more time for another topic, because
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I think there's so much more. There's so much more that you can share to my life mates. So thank you so much for your time. And to all my life mates out there, what's your purpose in life? It's never too late. It's a journey, it's not a destination. And don't forget, you're not alone. Because in that journey, in discovering your purpose, there are people, there are relationships who can help and who can be there and tell you that you're not alone. Once again, thank you so much. And if you like this episode, please share to your families and friends, because learning is not just for you, for everyone. And if we learn together, we can be stronger. Again, thank you so much. Until my next episode.